Good evening, everybody. Lovely to see you all as usual. A few more people on my call this evening, or wherever you are in the world, which is fantastic. For some of the new people who haven't joined, one of my calls on Thursday is a bit of an open mic, a safe environment. We talk, we listen, we share key ideas, we share stories, we talk about what's going well in the field, and I'm absolutely super delighted to welcome someone into the room. This is someone who I've admired, even though I haven't been on the MLM circuit for a long time. But the moment I knew this guy was Orion's best man at his wedding, and obviously I'd met on, and I was like, this guy must be super cool. And I know I haven't given you too many clues who's joining this evening, but you know, I think everyone who's been to Oslo, and there's some people on this call who have travelled to Oslo, and there's certainly someone actually who's on the call, I think, who's travelled all the way to visit this guy. We're talking about someone here who obviously is part of the Zinzino family. He's the vice president of North America. But, I asked him for some information. He's very, yeah, he's a bit too cool for school. But look, you're talking about the Hall of Fame, the Direct Selling Hall of Fame. He's the founder member of Mastermind, which, if you don't know, I'm pretty sure he's going to tell you a little bit about it on this call, which is somewhere that I absolutely really want to visit as well. He's been, an advocate for what we do. And obviously, most of us are just professionals on this call. We're from entrepreneurial backgrounds, or we're professionals who work with customers, maybe a couple of direct sales people on here. So listen, I'm gonna shut my gob, and I'm gonna introduce the one and only, the legend, Art Jonak. Art, thank you so much for being with us this evening, or this afternoon for you.
Hey Jay, nice to see you.
Nice
Nice
to
to
see
see
you.
Annabelle and Aaron and Alan and Amanda. You see, the Zoom thing works in the United States as well, not just in England and the United Kingdom. So I appreciate those of you turning on your Zoom here. Um, and I was just listening to your debrief, Jay. So some of you saw me on the phone. Is he really listening to the phone? Yeah, I was listening to the phone. I just took a shower because it's starts the day start early, right? In the U.S., I have to start 5:36 a.m. Because we're a European company, and then we have calls. So now I've got my Smurf juice. Jay, are they called Smurfs in England and
Yeah,
United Kingdom?
we've adopted your Smith juice saying, pal. Yeah.
Yeah, Avatar juice, Smurf juice. I think in Germany they call it Schlumpfe, right? Like there's Schlumpfe or something like that. That's cool. So cheers to you. And I was going to, I think we'll do a little bit of a fireside chat. And then, Jay, you also said, hey, can you maybe share with us a higher level view of why Zinzino? Um, and I'll do that. It's going to require a little bit of head think, but you all are the top leaders. And, we can handle that, right? Just a little bit of thinking, even though it's the evening time over there. Show of hands, everybody okay with that? Yeah, okay, cool. So we'll talk about why I believe that Zinzino can go become a $10 billion company, not in market cap, but in actual sales. And that's an extraordinary thing. So you can't just say, oh, because I like Orion and he was the best man at my wedding. That's not good enough, right? I can't say that because, hey, yes, the mastermind event, that's a photo from it. We've done 30 generic events in the space. The next one's in Sofia, Bulgaria. But I can't say it just because I know the space, right? We have to have some kind of a foundation, some pillars of why that's true based on other companies outside of our space of direct selling that have done it or are on the way to doing it. But before I do that, we have some campaigns this month, Jay, right? I see you got two campaigns going on in the United Kingdom as well, all over the
Absolutely.
world. ECBX and all these extra points. So what we've adopted in the US is we have something called a magic 8 ball. Some of you might remember this. It's a toy from the 1980s, 1990s, early 2000s. You shake it, and then on the back, there's this thing that says, hey, is Jay going to make $25 million in the next week? Not likely. Okay, cool. Then I shake it again, right? And you can ask it questions and it comes up with like 16 different answers. But the campaigns this month are all around the number 8. So maybe some of you have played billiards or pool, and the 8 ball looks the same. 8 action points, 8 enrollment points qualifies you for both campaigns. And that's incredible. So with 8 action points, you get ECBX in September. 8 enrollment points, you get 400 extra credits, right? 200 down each leg. So the mantra we have is the 8 ball. And you're starting to see more and more partners, and the sales team have their 8 ball because they ordered it from Amazon for $6, right? And they're holding it up on the screen. But creating something very simple like that is one of the keys to our business, right? Because we can go through all the rules of the campaign, and we can go through, those are all important. But typically in a conversation, people remember 1, 2, or 3 things from that conversation. And I can tell you that they remember this. So they at least remember what the number 8 is. All right, Jay? So I don't know if you have a pool table at your house, Jay, but you can grab that 8 ball. You don't have to use the magic 8 ball. You can just use the regular pool table 8 ball, right? And go for it. And then before we go into that, and Jay, if you have questions, I know you said this is also Q&A, so we can have a fireside chat here. I wanted to share with you something that I share almost on every call that we do. I share it with every conversation that I have. So I did lunch yesterday with 2 different lunches. So now I'm gaining weight, right? Coming out of summer, I've already gained some weight. And now I've got 2 lunches going on, meeting prospects on the behalf of partners that are in Texas at the moment. And then earlier today, I had a couple of group Zooms. And I like reinforcing the message of what we're doing at the very core. And some of you may have heard this, but I'm going to say it again because it bears repeating until you can say it in your sleep. Until 2 o'clock in the morning, you wake me up, Art, what do you tell people about Zinzino? And I'll say, number 1, what are you doing in my house? And then number 2, here's what I say. So we need to get good at steering our conversation. So if Amanda, I'm talking to you, right? And I see you, looks like you're taking notes over there. Yeah, I see you there with the beautiful painting behind you. If I'm talking to you and we're having just a friend conversation, my job is to steer that conversation towards health somehow. And I'm doing that, yes, as a benefit because I want to get you on the balance oil. But I'm doing it even more because you, as my friend, Amanda, I want you to be healthier, even if you're super healthy. So where I'm coming from is Amanda, my friend, at least needs to know what I know. And then what she does with it is up to her, right? I'm just there to give her the fact, give her an option, give her a choice. And then she can decide what to do with it. So I might be sitting there saying, hey, Amanda, I'm quite a bit older than you. And now I'm fit, a lot of my friends are falling apart. They've got this ankle and that knee and this spleen and that thing that popped out of their stomach and something growing out of their whatever. But there's this stuff happening to my friends at this age and older. And I greedily, from the perspective of self-interest, don't want that to happen to me. All right. So how many of you can relate to that? Right? Yeah. So one of my lessons in life has been I've learned to never discount people's self-interest. Not that self-interest is bad, but self-interest is there for all of us. So I'm tapping into that self-interest for myself, admitting it. And then the person I'm talking to might also say, yeah, I also don't want that. Because I don't know how many of you have experienced friends who have gone through pretty terrible end of life. And I know that's not a comfortable thing to talk about. But I've had friends where I'm downstairs in their house and the spouse is upstairs and they're going through just something that's so painful that no matter what drugs they take, they're still in pain. So you hear them just screaming. And then you ask the spouse, how long has this been going on? They're like, oh, months. And I don't want that. Right? I'm not even going to do by show of hands how many of you want that in your life. But it's so uncomfortable, society doesn't talk about it. And I'm not saying that we're, there to prevent it, but that's where self-interest comes from. So I steer the conversation and I say, Amanda, so what I did is I started to research. I went to the Google, but that's just a bunch of links. I went on podcasts and that was easier about health. And I listen at 2x speed so I can get through the information quickly. And then I found this thing called Chat GPT, the AI thing. Started typing questions into the Chat GPT. And Jay, you guys have that over there, right? The Chat GPT or Grok or, yeah, of course you do. And that pointed me to answers quickly. And there's one thing I found out that really stuck out. What is the person going to ask? What's the one thing? Like they have to ask, what's the one thing? So I'm steering it into a very friendly way. I'm not pitching, I'm not coercing, convincing, manipulating. I'm having a conversation and then I'm educating a little bit. Right? How many of you think that that's more comfortable than maybe pulling out a 25-page slide deck there with your friend while you're on the side watching your children play soccer or football in England? So the conversation then goes, here's what I've learned, and write those words down. Here's what I've learned. Here in Texas, we don't like know-it-alls. And I suspect Jay doesn't like know-it-alls. And a lot of people over there probably don't like know-it-all. What does a know-it-all look like? Hey, Amanda, here's what I know. Here's what I learned that you don't know, you idiot. Now, we're not going to say you idiot, but it's going to come across that way because we're so excited about what we learned and we dump on them. This doctor on YouTube said this and this. And it's like, whoa, 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 you know. So when we say, here's what I learned, that goes away. The know-it-all goes away. Oh, well, what'd you learn? And then people want you to get to the point. Right? How many of you like somebody that talks for 25 minutes straight, other than Art Jonak today? Because Jay muted himself, so I can't even have a conversation with him because he's filling up on some omega-6s there. I'm just kidding. No, I'm sure you're eating omega-3s. But for most people, they say, yeah, I want to have a conversation. I don't want a monologue from you for 10, 15 minutes. And I think that's true everywhere I go. So I'm just going to suppose it's true for you on the other side of the pond compared to here in Texas. And so I say, here's what I learned. And then I need to probably tell them in about 2 minutes. What I find is more than 2 minutes, that's not a conversation anymore. Right? Like if you're sitting having dinner with people and somebody's going on for 2 or 3 minutes straight, unless it's your dad trying to teach the family a lesson at the dinner time, like a Charlie Munger type, then you're probably going to say, hey, when do we get a shot in this conversation? Just imagine your kids, right? If you're speaking for 3 minutes at dinner straight, what kind of look are your kids giving you? So I say, here's what I learned. I hold up one hand because most people have a hand. And I say, imagine this is an omega-6. Now, I've never heard of what an omega-6 was. But what I learned is it's essential. Your body has to have it. And your body doesn't make it. So you have to get it from a food or a supplement. That's all I say. Your body has to have it. Your body doesn't really make it. You have to get it from a food or a supplement. Now, I think every one of you at this point, unless you just joined this week, probably has a lot more to say about omega-6s, don't you? Right? Oh, those are things that you buy, you eat, you overload. That great. Happy for you. Maybe you're even as good as Dr. Paul Clayton, or the director call this week was Thomas Gunderson. And oh my gosh, like that was great for some people. I'm taking notes and I'm chat GPTing every third word he's saying because I don't understand that kind of stuff. So that's all I say about the 6. Then I put up my other hand and say, and then Amanda, imagine this is an omega-3. Now I have heard of omega-3s because here in Texas, they like supplement my milk with it and all this stuff. But what I learned is that it's essential. Your body has to have it. Your body doesn't make it. So you have to get it from your food or a supplement. And now the person who you're talking to has heard the exact same thing twice about 2 different things. Because I said the exact same thing about the omega-6 and I said the exact same thing about the omega-3, didn't I? And that allows their brain to actually absorb it. Because now they're hearing it twice, that allows it to sit in repetition, right? And then subconsciously they're thinking, well, what's the difference between the 2? And then I'll say, here's what I found out. The difference between the 2 is the 6 creates an anti-inflammatory response in your body when your body needs to do that. So if you twist your ankle and it doesn't start to swell, you're in trouble, right? Those are the omega-6s doing what they need to do. When you cut your finger and you're bleeding and you and the bleeding doesn't stop, you're in trouble because the inflammation isn't helping that bleeding stop. So we're very clear that the omega-6s are not the bad guys. And I think in Zinzino, we have to be very careful to not say, oh, omega-6s, you shouldn't have those at all, because that's not accurate, right? They are important. The omega-3s do the opposite. They create an anti-inflammatory response in your body when it needs to. And then here's the problem. We have way too many of these 6s for these 3s. And then I can ask Amanda, hey, why do you think that is? Right? I've already gone around 90 seconds at this point. So I'm going to try to create conversation because most people are aware of seed oils, right? And they're going to say, oh, it's the seed oils that I'm eating, or it's the McDonald's, or it's the whatever the fast food is, and I'll say, yeah, I'll say when you go grocery shopping and just take a look around at people's grocery carts, and maybe you're like me, you kind of, a voyeur into their carts, right? When they're checking out, you're watching what they put on their conveyor belt as they're checking out, and you're like, oh, wow, that's a big bag of Doritos. Oh, you really needed to get the ice cream that's like, a gallon instead of a little pint? We're judging. And so most of what we have in our carts here in the US, and maybe it's less so in Europe, but it's still a lot, is that is 90% of what's in that cart is omega-6s. And that's the reality. Now I'm taking them to the shopping cart because even if they say no to buying the omegas, every time they go shopping now and they see a shopping cart, they're going to think about this conversation. It's a Jedi mind trick. I'm planting this conversation into every time they go shopping and they see a shopping cart, they have to subconsciously think about what I just shared with them. And so I'll agree with them. I'll say yes. And I said, here's what I found out is that you shouldn't have more than 3 of these omega-6s for every one of these. They live in your cell membrane. And when you have 3 or less, your cell membrane is nice and soft and malleable, like a pillowcase. Now, why do I say a pillowcase? How often do people go to bed? Every day. So every day their head hits the pillow, they have to think about what? Amanda's going to be stuck thinking about this weird Texan guy talking about soft cells, right? So I'm messing with their brain. It's like Chinese water drip torture. Some of you may know that story, right? And I'll say, so your cells become soft and malleable. What that means, Amanda, is that good things can get in easier. So if you're like most people after COVID, you've probably started to buy more health conscious products, maybe organics, maybe you're drinking some greens of some kind, maybe you're eating the healthier bar, maybe you're into peptides, whatever that may be, you're probably developing some kind of a health stack. Well, if your cells are soft and malleable, that stuff that you're already buying has a much better chance of working better. And then when your cells are soft and malleable, the trash, the bad stuff can get out. Now, I used to just say bad stuff, Amanda, but now I use the word trash. Jay, why do I use the word trash? I might be asking the wrong guy because I don't know if Jay takes out his trash 2 or 3 times a week. I haven't been to his kitchen. But I'm assuming that he probably, like the rest of us, has to take out the trash. So now every time I'm hauling the trash down for us is Saturday and Wednesday, right? Got to take it to the curb of the house. I'm thinking, I wonder if my cells are taking out the trash as well. Because when your number is higher than 3, 6, 10, 20, here in the United States, like in the Rio Grande Valley, which is the border of Texas and Mexico, we have seen scores of 127, 140. Crazy, like super dangerous. Then your cells become a little bit more, cell membranes become more hard and malleable, hard and rigid, like a charcoal brick, right? And it's harder for good things to get in and bad things to get out. And notice here, I'm having an educational conversation. And in most of the cases, what happens is they're nodding with me. Oh, you knew that part, but I didn't know that part. That's interesting. And then there's the turn. I needed to find out my number because I'm already spending money on all this good, healthy stuff. And so I took a test And always have a test handy, right? Like we have the ECBX kit in the US right now is 5 tests, right? It's $75 a pop. I don't know, Jay, what the ECBX kit is in England, London, probably UK, probably similar. And so uh, every woman this carries a purse. This is in there. Men, we put it in the car console. Like Amanda's got hers right there on a Zoom. Have it. If I have a balance test kit, I'm in business. I don't need anything else. I don't need a slide deck. I don't need anything else. I don't even need a bottle of balance oil. I just need this, right? And I say, so I tested because a friend of mine told me about this test called the balance test, and they gave me my number. And my number came back, and it was 20. Now, I want you to notice one thing. I'm not talking ratios, right? How many of you love math in high school? Gymnasium. Oh, look at that. We got a few, but hardly not too many, right? So maybe you're like my middle daughter who, let me just tell you something personal. Today was a hard day for me. You know why? Because today my middle daughter left the house forever. Now she's welcome back, but she is now grown up enough to have left, and she drove away, and I'm crying and crying and crying because we teach them to do the one thing we don't want them to do, which is leave, right? So we're proud of them, and I'm breaking inside. And this is the second time as a dad that I've gone through this, and it doesn't get any easier. So for those of you that have children or grandchildren, there's an attachment there. So I knew my score was 20, that was horrible, but I needed to immediately know. Thank you for the hearts, Gina. I needed to immediately know what were my children's numbers. Now, real quick on the math thing, I used to say, hey, Amanda, so the ratio is 3-1. The ratio is 25-1 average in the US. The ratio in Europe is average 15-1. How many people love ratios? Nobody. You can't think in ratios. Now it's like, oh my gosh, what is he talking about ratios? So I got rid of the whole ratio thing. I said, you should have 3 of these for every one of these. I don't even say the word ratio. And then I only talk about the number, right? My number was 20. My number should be 3. I did the test for my children, and their number was 40. Horrible father, because I'm deciding what's coming into the household. I'm deciding what they eat, right? They burn through omega-3s faster. Enzino is one of the first companies to figure that out. So I got angry. Some of you have a different emotion. So I want you to think about, like Annabelle or Clara or Craig, when you got your first test results, how did you feel? So when people go vote for their favorite politician, and I hear you guys just went through that, we're not really voting based on facts as much as we are in emotion, right? if we're like admitting it. And so when we're talking about these products, it's also about emotion. So how did you feel when you got your number? It really matters. And some of you might feel relief because, like my wife, she felt relief. She had a skin condition that for her entire life couldn't figure it out. She's like, maybe this is the thing, right? And luckily for her, it was, which is just amazing. Some of you might be scared. Oh no, what do I do, right? But whatever that emotion is, share it. So I'll say, so Amanda, when I saw that number, I got angry because I needed to fix this for my family. So where I'm going with that is, in that conversation, the first question I want to kind of pose is, Amanda, would you like to know your number? Would it be okay to find out what your number is? Now, is that a hard sell? No. Is that coercion, manipulation? No, I'm just giving her a choice. So that's the first question. And then I am going to offer her the solution, because she's going to be thinking or ask me, well, what the heck did you do about it, Art? Right? Conversation. And I'll say, well, I could have added about $1,000 to my shopping cart every month to buy more omega-3s, and then have the discipline to eat 2 cans of sardines a day. And unless I lived in Portugal or southern Spain, I probably wasn't going to do that. So my other option was, my friend told me about this product called the balance oil. In the United States, we always take it with a shot glass, because most Americans know how to use a shot glass since high school. probably where you live as well. We put some water in there or some juice or some, here we have also the Zeo product. You put it in there. You pour the balance oil on top. The balance oil rises, beautiful golden color. But here's why we do that. We're not all from Scandinavia where they drink it straight out of the bottle, right? Jay's a tough guy. He probably drinks it straight out of the bottle, right? James Barrett, you look like a pretty tough guy. You probably drink it straight out of the bottle. I got it. That's cool. But my mother gave me cod liver oil growing up. I got PTSD when it comes to the oil. So when Orion told me it was oil, I thought, oh my gosh, anything but oil. And I was talking to Kesh, who's a president in Zinzino, amazing guy, doctor, gave up all his medical practices to go full time in Zinzino, create an incredible lifestyle with that. But he used to be a bartender, and he would put himself through medical school as a bartender. And what he figured out was he would put a heavy liquor in a shot glass and a light liquor, and the heavy liquor would rise. And then all the ladies and the boys would drink the shot, and all they tasted was the light liquor because that's the last thing to hit your palate. So they got drunk faster and they tipped him more. So it worked. And the moment I heard that, I ran downstairs right here at my house and I put water into a shot glass. I put the oil in there, it rose. I took the shot and all I tasted was orange lemon mint water. And I can tell you in the United States, especially in the Midwest, if they eat fish, it's fried. They do not have an acclimation to the taste of fish. But when you do it in a shot glass, done. And they all know how to do it. So we call this the balance shot, right? Easy. It's a 1 second solution. And I say, all I did, Amanda, was I started pouring 4 shot glasses on the table. Everybody took a shot in my family. 120 days later, we took a test again and we were good to go. That's the expression that's very American. You're good to go, buddy, right? You guys need to figure out whatever that expression is for you. And I created a new habit. And so we just take 1 shot a day and we're good to go forever, as long as we keep taking the 1 shot a day. And the only downside is I'm teaching my children how to take shots earlier in life than they maybe should. And then I'll tell Amanda, 99% of Americans have a bad number, higher than 3. So the odds are that you're probably got a bad number. So, and here's the second question, write it down. Would you like to do something about it? That's it. Would you like to do something about it? Do you want to develop the discipline of eating more omegas and shopping better? Great, do it that. We don't care. We just want you to be in balance. Or let's get you started on the product and then you create the product value proposition that you have in England and the United Kingdom there. Get the test, get the oil, get it every month, get the second test for free. I think it's the best value proposition in all of nutritional prevention. And then I say this, right? You can write this down. So, Amanda, what would you like to know first? So instead of me talking about how great Paul Clayton is, or Vitas, or the laboratory, or that the test is anonymous, Amanda might say, hey, I don't like giving my personal information away. Oh, we agree with you. That's why we have 1 number in here. You don't even have to put your name on there. You just make sure you get that number, and then you just put it in the website, and nobody knows it's you. Oh, great. And then here's the second question. What would you like to know next? Oh my gosh, Art, you're not talking about all the things you're excited about? No, because I could do that for 2 hours and blow them away. Like they would just, they're done. Glossing their eyes over. And then Amanda, you might say, what flavors y'all got? Well, we have orange, lemon, mint, and there's others. Hold on, let me look at the website. Now, I have them memorized, but I'll even look at the website so that she sees that if she decides to do the business later, she can just point at stuff, right? She might say, well, how many DHAs is there in, okay, now I'm doing Alabama. How many DHAs is there in a bottle? Now, I know it's 711. But I'm never going to say that. I'm going to pull the bottle up. I'm going to look at it and say, let's take a look, Amanda. 711. It's right there. I'm pointing because I don't want her to ever think she has to memorize all this stuff should she become a partner. And there's about 10 questions that can come up, no more. And usually it's 2 or 3 in any one conversation. And I say, what would you like to know next? And Amanda's like, that's all I need to know. I'll say, great. Let's get you started. Right now, you've got to say, let's pull out your credit card and let's go get the order done. And in this moment, you have the opportunity for a third question, depending on how much time you've had with them. This may be a question later in the second conversation. And the third question is, hey, Amanda, this company, they're a little bit unique in the sense that they don't pay a Kim Kardashian to promote their product. They don't just go and advertise. What they do is they say, hey, the people that help build the company, they get rewarded for doing so. And so we need help. We need to help more people check their number and fix it. And the question is, Amanda, would you like to help us help others? Question mark. Would you like to help us help others? Oh my gosh, Art, that is so threatening to the business opportunity. I don't know if I can do that. That is just scary. No, it's not. It's not scary at all, is it? Would you like to help us help others? That is so easy to ask. And they might say, nope. Wonderful. Guess what? They really are not made for this business. And then if they say yes, I take them down two sides. I can say, Amanda, what I found is the best tasting product is free product. So I can help you get your product for free as a customer just by helping help others. So let's talk to your sister, or if I know she has a sister, would it be okay if we showed her the hands? Or if I'm feeling bold, I'll say, or you could also not have to start from zero financially every single month, because if you start creating customers, the company will share in every bottle that's sold with you every month. And then you could just start to have an additional side income based on the customers that you help create. And just see her response. And if Amanda shuts that down, happy to have a customer. When she gets her results, I have a second chance to ask her if she'd like to help us help others. Because now she's like, oh my gosh, Art, my result was 79-1. And she'll be in such like, I need to tell my mom about this. Great. Would you like to help us help others? And if she says no at that point, I have one more shot minimum when we get the second test result. Oh, look at that. Your number went from 79 to 5. This really works, Art. Yes, it really does work. I should tell my friends. Yes, would you like to help us help others? And by the way, you're 5. That's like being partially pregnant. 3 is where we need to be. So the beauty of testing is we know you need to take a little bit more oil every day. And Amanda goes, wow, this is so much better than I hope a nutritional product works, or I believe a nutritional product works. I know the nutritional product works. Now, Jay, you can unmute for a moment because I've been on a monologue here. And then
I was just going to interrupt you anyway. I was going to interrupt you anyway because Amanda actually works for fertility. That was brilliant, Art. Amanda's one of our fertility experts. You were talking to Amanda the whole Zoom, and then you dropped in that bit. But so guys, we get together every Thursday, and we have a good laugh. And my 30-minute call, Art, goes on for 2 hours, and it's a great crack, and it's an honest one. And I think I get used a lot because I talk quite quickly and a lot, and I can nail someone down. But what you've just done for me was really simple, and you captured referral. Like referral training was something I've been thinking about training the guys on. You captured the referral side in there. You asked the question instead of being the Paul Clayton. I mean, I just took so much from that, and it was really simple. And yeah, I thought it was something you would ask me, Art.
No, I needed a breather. I needed to take a drink of Avatar Smurf juice.
Yeah, I mean, we get together every Thursday and go into some details, and we talk about our wins and how we got them, and we share the key ideas. But I mean, just what you did, it's using things and planting seeds, not seed oils, but planting seeds, and getting them thinking in a simple way. I enjoyed that. Yeah.
And it's very conversational. And Jay, I know you love having conversation, right? Like you have the gift of gab, which is just amazing. I had to develop it over time. And I don't think you did. I think you were probably born and your mama probably at the age of 1 is like, oh my gosh, does he ever Ever? Is he ever quiet?
It was W. Clement Stone's fault, actually. W. Clement Stone, and Combined Insurance Company of America. That was what
Oh,
dragged
that's where you learned it. Okay.
that. Yeah, going down, being flogged down the street, pal. Yeah, by obviously he was 1901, but his system and the way he did things is
Yeah.
something that we are doing more of as a team. Role play and talking and taking action. The art of
Love it.
conversation. Emma's
Yes.
saying fantastic, Emma. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've mastered that. I mean, I don't know how lucky all of you realize you are to be in this proximity with Jay, to be able to work with him, because the conversations he and I have they always light me up, always put a smile on my face. We're laughing and then we're learning together. So it's brilliant. So yeah, this is conversational. I think sometimes the more we learn, the more we want to show off what we know,
Yeah.
and that's when we started, and we had good results, and then all of a sudden the results started to go down, and then I sit down with the person. I say, okay, give me the presentation, and then I realize that they're just saying way too much. That can come later during the question. What would you like to know? So in this case, I think less is more. You learn the hands and then just point to places. If somebody says, yes, I'd like to learn how to help others and make money, bring them to the Zoom call, right? You don't have to answer all those questions. Create intrigue into the Zoom call. Sell the Zoom. Oh, if you get on the call, the Zoom call with Jay, he's already created this kind of success, and that's the perfect place to learn the answers to those questions. The more we answer the questions about the opportunity, the less likely they are to show up on the Zoom call. If that makes sense, right? That's like a little nugget right there in and of itself.
Well,
So good.
you've been, over 20 years. You meet and are surrounded constantly by the most incredible leaders in direct sales from different companies. And yeah, obviously you chose Inzi. I don't think you did it because you're a good friend of Orion's, and we look truly, and I talk about this, I feel blessed to what we have. And I talk about wearing the motto, the mark of the organization, wearing the cap badge above my left eye and being proud. And I said that to Orion after meeting him after 20 days of being in the company in his house when Hilda was pregnant. And Dad popped down to see me in COVID. And I think that, from your perspective, we'd be really interested to know, from what you've seen over the last 20 years with companies, what have we got to look forward to, and how's the industry and what's your thought the industry today and what we have?
Well, I need to get you a Starlink. Did he pause for everybody else for the end of that question? Yeah, okay. But I got the gist of it, Jay.
I'm sorry, did I pause my signal? Sorry.
No, that's okay. That happens to every one of us has moments of Wi-Fi jankiness. I don't know if that's a word over there, but here janky is like weirdness.
I like jankiness.
Jankiness, yeah. So we could talk for 6 hours. Wise and Zeno. But I'll share with you Wise and Zeno from the perspective of, if we decide to build this, you're putting in your time, which is one of the most valuable things we have. Sometimes you're putting in capital early on, and then over time you start building that ongoing income. You're putting on the line your reputation as well, right? That's a cumulative thing that you've developed, and you don't want to sacrifice that reputation. So you probably have to ask yourself, yes, the company's been around 20 years, but will they be around the next 20 years? Now, nobody can predict that, but there are certain things that you look for that are common in companies that last a long time. Because joining something for a year or two, you don't get the accumulating advantages. You don't get that compounding effect of building a business. You need to play with the game with long-term people and long-term businesses. So for me, Orion and I have been friends since our early 20s. I've seen him go through all the stuff. So I'll give you an outline, maybe from the perspective of an investor, because you're investing your time even as much as your capital, right? It could go both ways. And if a company or a group of people come up to me and say, Art, I'd like some capital from you to start this startup company. Before I look at the problem that they're trying to solve, I look at them, right? Because if you've been around entrepreneurship, you know that at some point you're going to hit a brick wall. And if that person doesn't have the ability to have to go through that brick wall no matter what, to have that discipline, to have that fortitude, to have that bounce back ability, to have that that mindset of high agency, it doesn't matter if their idea is good or not. And for Orion and Hilda, I have never seen them back down, ever. I remember the director trips where they had to put it on their own credit card to get that done and then pay off that card. I've seen them go through, just the incredible amount of miscarriages to have their first son, Gabriel. Fortunate to be his, the grand, to be the godfather to Gabriel. But that was incredible. So they have that fortitude. So if Jay was saying, hey, Art, would you like to invest in my company? I said, Jay, tell me a little bit about you. Tell me about the problems that you've overcome. Well, in high school, I tried to win the spelling bee and I came in second. So next year I came back stronger than ever because I had to win first. Aha, a clue, right? So I'm looking for this tenacity in the founders. It's really important. And you're going to have to borrow that from me. Some of you know Orion and Hilda better over the time, so you already know. But they have it in spades. And I've never seen them hungrier than they are today. Like their hunger level has always been strong. They've always leveled up. They're incredible independently, but they're even more incredible together. And then they found this guy, Doug Bergheim Pedersen. And Doug is like amazing. And he had to go from a company that was doing better than Zinzino outside of the direct selling space. Orion kept bugging him for years and eventually convinced him of the vision to come here. And, I've been watching Zinzino for a long, long time before Doug came. And so I was a little bit like, is he the guy? Can we trust him? And Orion's got a really good sense of character of people. And when Doug came over, he learned the profession of direct selling really quickly because it's so different, right? You got to get on stage, you got to be personable, you got to explain things. But he was at a time when interest rates were very low. How many of you remember still a long time ago when interest rates were kind of low, right? And so when interest rates are low, you can build a company because capital is cheap. So you don't really see the mettle of a CEO during those times. But then COVID came. And that's like, Warren Buffett, and they say when the tide rolls out, you see who's swimming naked, right? And running a business during COVID was extremely difficult. Logistics and supply chain and shipping and all this stuff. And Dag Bergheim Pedersen was able to navigate that time and still pay a dividend on the shares. Many companies who used to pay dividends stopped paying dividends during COVID, right? Pause on the dividends. But you can't pay a dividend unless you're growing, profitable, debt-free. So he had to go from being a peacetime CEO, is what we would call in the investment world, to a wartime CEO. And most companies didn't do that, and they ended up in a big problem. Some companies got rid of the CEO, put him in another role, and put a wartime CEO in the place during COVID, and then they brought back the CEO. Doug was able to do both. And then interest rates in the United States started to go up like crazy all over the world. And when you have high interest rates, it's hard. And even during a high interest rate environment, Doug Bergheim Pedersen as the CEO has been able to pay dividends, steer the company into growth, open countries, add products, all that. It's remarkable. I mean, really remarkable. So that checkbox is this group of people capable of walking through a brick wall when needed? Because there will be problems. And to me, that's a huge, big yes, right? And Jay, you've probably seen that now over time. If you can give me a co-host, I'll show you a few quick slides on the 30,000 foot or 10,000 meter perspective of why you might want to put your time and effort into this, the way that Orion is and the way that I am. So let's take a look. There we go. Perfect. Um, hold on, Art Napolitano is calling me. I got to get rid of him. So this is we're soon going to have our Zinzino fall here. Just let me one moment. Let me just tell Art Napolitano I'm on the Zoom. We'll call back. So this was what I would call the next decacorn. And what the heck is a decacorn? Is it like corn pops, cornflakes, popcorn? So there's an expression in investing or in venture capital or in entrepreneurship, and it's called a unicorn. Now, it's not the one that my daughters like, which is the horse with the rainbow on it, and it poops rainbow beautiful candies. A unicorn is a company that's valued at over $1 billion. So that's their shares times the dollar amount of their shares. So Jay, in Silicon Valley, for example, when a company becomes a unicorn, it doesn't mean they're doing $1 billion in sales. It means that their value is $1 billion and they get celebrated like crazy. Our goal is to be a unicorn in sales, $1 billion in sales. I think if we continue to have a great year like we are, we probably are going to close out close to 500 million in sales this year, which is just phenomenal. A decacorn is a company that's valued at over 10 billion in sales. In market cap. We believe we can get to 10 billion in sales. What the market cap of our company will be, Zinzino will be, is determined by the market. What's the multiple that they're going to give? So here's what I believe part of our mission is, right? We inspire change in life and we measurably move the dial on public health because we test, don't guess, right? We can do it with our gut. We can do it with the balance test. So there's 5 items here that I think are worth looking at if you're putting your time, your character, your reputation, your money on the line. So if I'm going to invest in a company, and let's say, Jay, you're coming to me with 2 partners, say, hey, we've got a startup. So one, I want to find out, Jay, are you the guy that can walk through a brick wall? Number 2, I'm going to say, okay, the problem that you're trying to solve, how large is the market for it? So if it's a really small market, not good use of my capital, because even if you get 100% of the market, it's still a small business. So I'm not going to get a lot more money on my capital. So how big is the total addressable market? Do you have Uber in the United Kingdom? Just nod, yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. There we go. Perfect. So there's a guy named Travis Kalanick. He started this company called Uber. He lives here in Texas, right out on the lake. And when he saw the ride-sharing market, this is basically people taking a yellow cab in New York City or a black cab in Brussels or a tuk-tuk in Thailand. Would you all agree that that's a huge market?
Absolutely.
Hiring somebody to take you from point A to point B. Huge market. So that's a check mark for him when he was looking at that at Uber. But that's not enough. If I said, Jay, our market is oxygen, I'm still not giving you my money, even though it's a huge market. Number 2 is it fragmented? Well, what does fragmented mean? It means that market, is there a clear winner yet? Because if there's already a clear winner, it's going to be much harder. But if there's a lot of players in the market and there isn't a clear winner, meaning if I come up, if I say the name weight loss, what do you say? In the United States, you would say Jenny Craig, Herbalife, Weight Watchers, right? There are some winners in the space. In the ride sharing space, if you said ride sharing before Uber, nobody knows what that is. But it was fragmented. It was yellow cabs in New York. It was the black cabs in London. It was the tuk-tuks in Thailand. There wasn't a clear winner. So I'm looking for something that's fragmented, no clear winner. And then on top of that, I look at Zinzino. Just the omegas alone. Let's not talk about the gut health test. Let's not talk about anything else. The omega market, 500 million people are taking this. Now, you all know this slide well because it's in our presentation. Is that a small total addressable market or big? Big, right? And so as an investor, you would be leaning in, either as an investor buying the shares or as an investor in putting your time to help build the company. That market is expected to grow from 40 billion in sales to 200 billion by 2050. I think it's going to be bigger. And 97% of people in the world fail the test. That's called a blue ocean opportunity. And so under this, here's what you can look at for Zinzino. If I were analyzing Zinzino, which I do, 500 million people taking the omega-3s daily, $40 billion market. Less than 0.2% have taken the test in most places. In some countries, it's 1%. 97% fail. In the United States, it's 99%. The market is going to grow to 200 billion. And in 99% of the countries, there's no single go-to brand for omegas. So in the US, if I go and I sit and I wait for my daughter to come out of ballet and I'm talking to the other parents there, and I ask them, what brand of omega do you take omega? And 25% of them will say, yeah, I take an omega. Then I ask them, what brand do you take? And Jay, you can imagine what they're going to say, right? I don't know. I have to go home, open my kitchen cabinet, pull the bottle out and tell you what brand it is. Because I randomly picked it up at the gas station or at the Costco, or some cute girl or guy on Instagram said, these are the great omegas, and you bought that one. There is no clear winner. And when you see that, a large market without a clear winner, you've got to lean in. Like that's like the beginning of an opportunity. And we check that off. Number two is something called an NPS. An NP what? An NPS. It's a net promoter score. It basically says if Jay was a real estate agent and he was my real estate agent and he did a good job, what are the odds that I'm going to refer Jay to somebody else? That's a referral score. If you're using a piece of software or an AI, what is the promoter score? It can go from 0 to 100. And I don't know how many of you remember taking your first Uber, but I do. And that was when the cars were all black still. And I thought, this is brilliant. I don't have to put my thumb out to hail a cab. I don't have to wonder if Joe, a good guy or a bad guy. I've got the ratings right here. I don't have to pull out cash to pay him. I can just do it in the app. So the promoter score was really high for Uber, but the competition had a very low promoter score. Even if I like Joe, the cab driver, how am I going to recommend Joe to somebody else? I can't, right? And so here's the thing. What you want is you want the company that's going to take the market, like Uber or Zinzino. You want them to have a high net promoter score, but you want the competition to have a low net promoter score. Because if the competition has a high net promoter score and you do as well, it's going to be hard. You're going to have to advertise. You're going to have to give money to Zuckerberg on Facebook and Jeff Bezos on Amazon and all this advertising. If both of you have a low net promoter score, it's going to be hard as well, right? There's no delta difference. But one of the first things I did, Jay, is I started calling customers in Zinzino, not partners, because partners are biased. And I started asking customers, would you recommend the Balance Oil and the test to others? And it was like, yes, 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 yes. The net promoter score for Zinzino is through the roof, while the competition is really low. So there's 3 more steps. Jay, do you want to see them, or should we save it for some other time?
No, we want to see them. We want to see them.
You sure?
We want to see them.
Okay. All right. So the step 3, and these are a little bit shorter, is if I can check off the first 2, I want to find out if what's being offered is 10 times better than the competition, or is it only 10% better? Because if it's only 10% better, I'm already happy with the company I'm with. They already got my credit card, right? I don't want to switch. The pain of switching is too high. But if it's 10 times better, I'm probably going to switch. Uber for me was 10 times better than flagging down a cab whenever I'm in a city. So I switched right away. Getting picked up at the airport was easier with an Uber. If you look at Elon Musk's company, like him or don't like him, that's not the point. But him as an entrepreneur, would you agree that rockets that take off and land and can be reused the next day is better than ones that blow up and can never be used again? Yes. Cars that drives themselves, which I don't know if has arrived in Europe as much as, but here in Texas, you can get in a cyber cab and it just drives you anywhere you want. There's nobody in the driver's seat. It's phenomenal, right? And it's so much safer than humans. I much prefer getting a self-driving car in Phoenix or here or in San Francisco, wherever they're available, than getting an Uber driver, because I've had too many chances in cases where the Uber driver runs a red light. These cars never do that. He's created the Boring Company. He's created a company where they put a chip in the head of people that can't use their arms and legs, and all of a sudden they're using a computer, right? He doesn't need to advertise because it's 10 times better. So Uber was 10 times better. What about Zinzino? Well, with Zinzino, as I said earlier, we're going from hope and belief to knowing because we use the test, right? We're testing, not guessing. That alone makes what we do better. But we're not only testing, because some companies test and then they say, Jay, your numbers are bad for X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that your doctor says, right? Your triglycerides, your blah, 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 blah. They don't give you a solution. And if they do, it's like drugs, not one we love to hear about. But here, not only do you find out that you might have a problem, but we actually show you something that's completely easy to take that doesn't have all those disclaimers. Here in the US, they can advertise drug companies on TV. And half the ad is, this may cause severe bleeding, diarrhea, death. Like, that's bad. This doesn't have that. This is just a regular, nice, natural product. So we offer a solution to what you have. And I can tell you that that is 10 times better. Here's the other thing about being 10 times better, is that when you have something that's 10 times better, in order for a company to come and take your customers from you, Jay, they can't be 10% better because they're already loyal to Jay. They're loyal to Zinzino. They're loyal to the product. They've already got the autoship. They've got all these Cash things coming in. They're happy. So even if they copied it exactly the same way, we would keep the customers. They would have to come up with something that's 10 times better. And Jay, I don't think that in your lifetime and my lifetime, somebody's going to come out with something that's 10 times better than this blood-based test with Vitas, and then an all-natural solution, 1 second shot a day to solve it. I just don't think that's going to happen. So we have this moat. I know you guys love castles, right? Like, there's a lot of castles there. They used to have these moats around them that protects you. Because we're 10 times better and somebody's not going to come out with something that's 10 times better, we're protecting that moat. Number 4 is something called vertically integrated solution. Well, what the heck is that? That means that you own most of the stack. So in Uber, they have the app. Inside the app, they have the maps. Inside the maps, they have the drivers. Inside the drivers, they have the rating. Inside there, they have the payment system. Inside there, they get to know you as the customer. Inside there, they know about. It's all in there. So they can now have tighter and tighter margins, better and better profit, and they can improve their product faster. What does that look like in Zinzino? We have a direct-to-consumer model. So Jay, you can't go to Walmart in the United States and find the balance test on the shelf. Right? Because if we did that, we wouldn't know who our customers were. We would only know that Walmart sold 1,000 of them. Direct to consumer means we know who our customers are. We deliver the product right to them. We're an e-commerce platform. We own our manufacturing in a lot of cases, like bioactive foods. We do in-house research and development with bioactive foods, with Zion, with Clianti. We source our raw materials in a lot of cases. We have patented products. To me, the direct selling model is superior to every model out there because I think with AI, we're going to get so cynical about information, and companies are going to have a harder and harder time getting products to market and getting people to see it. And what we do is we say, hey, if we have missionaries that help build the company, we're going to share 50% approximately of the profits for as long as the customers order. Are you kidding me? That is the perfect model. We control the manufacturing. We control the distribution. We have the tech stack, so you can check that off. And then finally, there's something called S-curves. So an S-curve, think of it sideways, but they call them S-curves. I don't know, Jay, if you remember the iPod from Apple. I think you do.
I do. I lost it in Thailand many years ago.
So the iPod, when it came out, you remember, Jay, they said, Steve Jobs said, you get 100 songs in your pocket.
Mm.
And we used to listen to cassettes and CDs. Like, oh my gosh, 100 songs in my pocket. That's fantastic. And they sold 100 million some of those. If Apple only had the iPod and didn't come out with the iMac, and then the MacBook, and the iPhone, and the App Store, they wouldn't be $1 trillion company. So inside Apple, there was the iPod, there was the iMac, there is the MacBook, there is the AirPods, which are $1 billion a year in business. There is the App Store. They have all these S curves that are compounding that start flat, nobody knows about it. Then there is a bunch of people that use it, and then they continue using it. So when you're investing in a company, you can't typically invest in one S-curve because that's usually going to be a very limited length of a company. But if there are multiple S-curves, man, you've got to really lean in. And Zinzino is a solutions-based company. We solve a massive existing problem. 100% of people should take the test. 99% fail in the US, 97 globally. In Europe, 15-1 average. In the USA, it's 25-1. So we've got to be number one, right, by being the worst. We have a product that everybody needs before they know they need it. It solves a huge existing problem. And it's a solution that once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't be a healthcare practitioner and not then think to yourself, maybe I should share this with others, right? It's going from innovation to trend, from obscure to popularized. We've analyzed 1.8 million tests so far. 97% baseline tests were imbalanced. For somebody that started testing now, it would take them 10 years just to catch us. We'd already be at 5 million tests by then. This is the 10,000 meter view. Why are we so pumped up every day to do the Omega hands? It seems almost boring, but we do it with enthusiasm because we have a long way to go in the US. We're at 70,000 tests. We're going to get to 1 million tests. This is specific to the US. I won't share it with you. But here's the S curves that we have. And this is where, to me, it's like, holy moly, Jay. Number one, the balance test and the balance oil, our key spear product. That's cell membrane health. I think that we can own that space, like flat out own it in 200 countries. So when somebody says Omegas, one of the top 3 companies that comes to mind is Zinzino, maybe the number one. Right now, there aren't any that come up in most countries. That alone is like, if we get 1% of the market in 2050, that's 10 billion right there. Right? So think about a cake. Say that it's the cake of cell membrane health. You can cut a slice and you might think, oh, that slice will get me to crown. No, Jay, what's left on the knife that you cut the slice with, that residue, that's crown. And I know these are big numbers, but why play small? We want to do something so significant in the world. So we believe we can own that space. Microbiome, we're not going to talk a lot about that, but you know that we have a gut health test, blood-based gut health test, only one in the world. We're starting to gather those tests to figure out what can we do to help people get to green, right? Most people. And we believe we could own that space. How many hundreds of billions of dollars is that worth, right, over the time? So those are our 2 main areas. Micronutrients, that's our Extend, right? That's our Viva. Macronutrients, we've got the polyphenols, which is our oils. We've got the scaled algae production. And I can tell you that just this last month, we've invested so much money in scaling that part. Because, think about this. When there's 50 million people taking omegas, the price of omegas from fish is going to continue to go up. It's the supply and demand curve, Jay, right? The more the demand, you got to look at supply, and you can't sustainably do that. So when Zinzino said we're going to get to 50 million customers, we didn't have a solution. But because of Zion and because of us being able to make the Phycosi and then the Spiramax, the algae that we create is created with clean air, clean water. We don't have to go to the ponds, right? It's the cleanest algae, in my opinion, in the world. We can scale it. We can grow it 2-3 times faster at half the price. We have the solution. So while most companies are going to have to raise prices on oil, we're probably going to be able to increase quality and decrease price. Who doesn't want to be part of that? Like it's crazy, right? We have so many S-curves. Those are the only ones I can talk about. You've seen Orion hold up a bottle where they took the residue of the algae and they made a plastic bottle out of it. Now, what are we going to do with that? I don't know. But there is so much that's happening inside this company. And since we're publicly traded, I can't say a lot. But here's what I can say from a 10,000 meter perspective. We have a large fragmented industry. Absolutely yes, right? Just the cell membrane health alone. Then we've got the gut. We've got low net NPS. That's our competition. We have a high NPS. That delta difference gives us a huge advantage. We're definitely 10 times better than everybody else in the space. And for somebody to take our customers, they have to come up with something 10 times better. We're getting fully vertically integrated, and we've got all these sexy S curves inside the company. So would you like to help us help others? That's the question. And I hope after this, you say, you know what? I'm probably going to go 10x my efforts. Would you like to find out your number? Would you like to do something about it? Would you like to help us help others? Just get good at asking these questions. That's it, right? Tell the story, offer a choice, follow up. We have the gold standard in so many ways. We're dream driven, we're future focused, and we're going to hit these numbers. And we're going to be able to hit them sustainably. And we're going to be able to hit them when the demand gets high, supply is low, and we're going to be able to give product that's higher quality, lower price, right? Ultimately, Jay, to me, it boils down to this, right? The future generations, the moms, the aunts, the sisters, the brothers, the friends. At least tell them, give them the choice. Give them the choice, right? So that's the higher view. I know some of you probably didn't sign up for that, but at the same time, I've been here with Enzino 5 years, and this enthusiasm, you see, my enthusiasm has not diminished. It's just gotten stronger. Even though I've probably shared the Omega Hands 5,000 times in the last 2 years.
I own the cell membrane space. I'm so glad this has been recorded. Key idea after key idea. My brain, my absorption brain for sales aids has just gone through the airport hotel rooms, because I'm actually in the airport. But look, it's about we, not about me. And I mean, art. Wow, unbelievable. Guys, raise your hands. Here's your chance. Ask the question. Give it to him. Who's first? Who wants to ask? Anyone? Well, don't let him off this lightly. Well done, Lisa. I know you'd be on Lisa.
I see Lisa has a question there. If you can unmute her.
Yeah.
She probably needs to.
Hi, Art. Thank you so much. That's exactly what I needed. I really need to be able to tell a story like that and make it less salesy and more natural. So, great tips. Thank you.
Yeah, we just do this. When I do this, this is the hands.
I'm so going to do that. I'm going to practice it in the mirror. My question is, what has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so that, like, life or in Enzino? That's a big question.
Indirect sales.
Indirect sales. I think inside direct sales, one, just think bigger sooner, right? Like, it's just the people put in 40 hours a week into something. So, like if you were in the home business, you could put 40 hours a week into renting one house, or you could put 40 hours a week into building a house, or you could put 40 hours a week into running a neighborhood with 10, 15 houses, or you could create a REIT, right, a real estate investment thing, and put 40 hours into doing that, or you could start a company that buys and sells homes online and vertically integrates the mortgage and the payments and all that. The same 40 hours, but at each one of those levels, the person's getting rewarded at a higher level, right? They're getting paid a lot more. If the person that creates the online version where they can buy and sell 5,000 homes a week in the United States and is done faster than anybody else, they're going to be worth billions of dollars. And so to me, the thinking bigger sooner part, it's the vision that's pulling you in the direction of your dreams. And we owe it to ourselves, to our family, to be pulled in the direction of our dreams. So typically people will laugh at the visionary, right? So, Lisa, you may have a big vision, and sometimes we feel like I can't share that with anybody because they're going to ridicule it, or they might shoot it down. And they will in many cases because they don't see themselves in that vision, or they don't have the tenacity to go after something like you do, and they want to pull you back down. So let's say that on a scale of 1 to 100, the visionary says, I'm going to get to 80, right? And the realist says, I'm going to get to 10. on that scale. And the pessimist says, I probably won't get past 4. And you go out and you put it out into the world that you're going to get to 80. And you miss. You get to the 60 or 50. The realist gets to 10. He's like, hey, I said 10 and I hit 10. I'm awesome. You are. I congratulate you. The pessimist is like, I did 4 and the 10 guy got lucky because he's got a bigger TV to show the opportunity video on or whatever. But they're still ridiculing Lisa for going for 80 and only hitting 50. But Lisa, you 5x'd the realist's results, didn't you? And I believe that the universe rewards us. We can bend the universe to our will. And however you want to think about that. I see that in Orion and Hilda. Like a lot of his talks are vision-based talks, where we're going, where he's going. And sometimes you don't know the path, but you're going to get there. And I would say that the mistake I made early on is I just wasn't thinking big enough soon enough because I was going to put in the hours anyway. So let your subconscious work into the bigger thinking sooner. There's no better time in the history of the world than today to get access to information. Like I can literally pull out my phone. I like using Grok as the AI, but there's ChatGPT, and I can have discussions with it on any topic and get smarter on that. It is remarkable, absolutely incredible. The Gen Z is going to blow us away as successful entrepreneurs. We have no excuses really anymore. But it is determined by our psychology. I'm reading this biography by this guy named Livermore, who in the 1900s he found a way to invest, and that created kind of a framework for investing. And his first investment made 30 million. Second one was about, I think it was 400 million. Third one was 1.1 billion. He made these 4 incredible investments over time, and he still lost all of them because he wrote the rules on investing. He wrote the things to not do as an investor, but he couldn't follow his own rules. So when he got a divorce or when he had troubles in his life, he didn't invest properly. So as much of this business being what to do, what to say, it's also as much as psychology, like controlling our emotions. He wasn't able to do that. And that's one of the greatest lessons we can learn from him, in addition to his investing that he's done. And I think that's true for us, Lisa. So for me, the moment I realized that it's, I need to move in the direction of my dreams. And if I'm not doing a service to me and my family. And I didn't care what other people thought. Where's my vision? And my vision better pull me, and it better be scary, because then I'm going to likely end up, at least 10x higher than the realist. I didn't want to be a realist anymore.
That's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Oh, listen.
Okay. Firstly, thank you so much. I'm going to squeeze in 2 quick questions, if that's okay. So what's been the biggest objections, like the reoccurring ones that you've always kind of heard along your journey? That's the first question. And if you could tell us how you've got over them barriers and objections. And then what's your biggest win with Zinzino?
So what I find on objections, to me, I love objections. Because objections means they care, right? It's a path for me to talk about the things that they're concerned about. So the shortcut, I'm not a big believer in shortcuts, but the shortcut in our profession is look for stories, like gather stories. And if you can have a story for every objection, it's so much easier. Because if I want to put my children to sleep, I should actually be telling them bedtime facts and not bedtime stories. Right? Like it would put them to sleep so much faster. But if you can find a story for most of the objections that pop up, then you're, number one, have the psychology of objections are great, because it's just a way for them to say, I need an answer to this. And then 2, if you have a story, they're easy to remember. Stories are much easier than memorizing facts. So you find the story to go with the objection. So sometimes people go, Art, don't people tell you it's that network marketing pyramids upside down, whatever, da 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 da. I'm like, no, I don't hear that hardly at all. How's that possible, Art? Because I tell a story, right? I say, hey, there's a guy named Reed Hastings, and he started a company called Netflix, Emma. And Netflix is great. And they came out with this show called House of Cards. How many of you remember the House of Cards show? It was fantastic. So I started telling all my friends because they would release one a week, and I wanted to talk to them about it. And over the decade, I've probably created 5,000 subscriptions for Netflix. $15 a pop. They're a publicly traded company. Guess how many subscriptions they have, Emma, every month? Just ballpark as a company globally. And you don't have to get this right, just so we can have conversation.
500 million.
That's a fantastic guess, because most people start at 50. So it's about 350 million.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a wonderful guess. Like you like A+. That was excellent.
Thank you.
So 350 million, let's say it's $10 a subscription, which is actually more, or even if they do ads. So I don't need to do the math on that. I just know it's a lot of money. And at the beginning of the month, Emma, they don't start from zero financially, do they? They don't have to worry about turning on the lights, because every month they get 350 million times 10.
Yeah.
So they're good to go. They're a publicly traded company. I helped them bring at least 5,000 of those. $50,000 a month of money I brought to them. And now here's the thing. Has Reed given me a thank you card? No. Has he sent me a Amazon gift card as a thank you? Hey, Art, thanks for bringing this business our way and helping build our company. No. Has he even told me, Art, I'm going to give you 1 month of free of Netflix? Nope. Man, what a greedy beep, 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 beep. Hey. Now, let me tell you what I found is that there are companies, and one of them does this balance test. And what they do instead is they say, Emma, if you help us get customers, we're publicly traded, open book. Every 90 days, you can see a report on us. But you help build the company, then we're going to reward you not one time with a thank you card or a gift card or a free month of product. We're going to literally pay you for every customer you bring personally or in your team, as long as they continue to order, for the lifetime of that customer. So the people who help build the company get rewarded for helping build the company, not one time, but ongoing, as long as the customers stay. That's the model that I live in. And a person that says that's dumb feels dumb for saying that.
That was a really good bedtime story, by the way.
It's a good bedtime story, right? And I've told that story.
I'm going to tell my kids tomorrow. No, thank you.
What's my greatest objection? I don't know. There's always something, but I love them. And then if I don't have a story, I start gathering it. And maybe I've heard it on somebody say something on a Zoom, and I'm like, I'm going to borrow that story, right? So whenever I'm a Zoom, I'm just collecting stories. Yeah. So that's the first question. And your second question was?
Your biggest win.
That's that's so easy for me. That's for in life, it's family, right? Friendships. I'm a long time, I play long-term games, positive sum, right? There's zero sum and there's positive sum. Zero sum means in order for somebody to become president of the United States, somebody has to not be president of the United States. I don't like zero sum games. I like positive sum games. In Zinzino, if somebody becomes president, that doesn't mean somebody else can't become the rank of president. You can also become the rank of president. To me, positive sum is long-term friendships that accumulate value over time with the stories that we've had and the memories and this trust. So those are the biggest wins. And I have those in Zinzino as well, with Orion, Hilda, and Doug, and many of the partners. So that's one of my biggest wins, is those relationships.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your time.
Art, I've got a question
you.
from a legend on the young legend on the call called Katie Stockley. She's doing really well, and Lisa was one of her girls before I asked the question. And her sort of attitude is extremely infectious. So I think this question which she would really appreciate from you. When your team is growing, what's the biggest mistake leaders make that prevents duplication? And what would you focus on first to build independent leaders rather than followers? And she's never done network marketing.
Well, I would say for never doing network marketing, it's a wonderful question. Most people don't ask that question until later. So there's a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? I'm an avid book reader. These are my favorites, but then I've got another room with the rest. And I go through a book a week no matter what. But this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is written by Stephen Covey. It's a really hard book to read because the guy that wrote it with him is like intellectual, but when he talks about it, it's effective. And one of them is begin with the end in mind, right? Begin with the end in mind. So the end is, as she said, is having independent leaders, having a leader in your organization that you're there for them when they need you. You're their biggest cheerleader, but they know how to do the mega hands. They know how to sponsor people. They know how to sign up customers. They know how to duplicate. So if your goal is to get to top team 200, you can retail your way there. If your goal is to get to diamond, you can probably recruit your way there. If your goal is crown, black crown, royal crown, ambassador, president, you're not going to recruit your way there, and you're not going to retail your way there. You're only going to duplicate your way there. It doesn't mean we're not good at recruiting or retailing. We are, but we also have to be good at duplicating. So one of the biggest mistakes is that you become the know-it-all. So when somebody says, how many DHAs are there in a bottle? And you go, 711. That's a mistake. Pick up the bottle and read it with them, right? Point them to the video, point them to the product fact sheet, learn the stories you can share, mega hands and so forth. But when it comes to the facts, point there. This is especially true for health practitioners. Health practitioners, if you're creating customers, be the health practitioner. If you're sponsoring a partner, you got to stop being the health practitioner, right? Otherwise, people say, oh, I got to be a health practitioner to be successful at this. No, right? So ask yourself, not does it work, but does it duplicate? That's a mistake that people make. And then once you have a small team, you think you become a manager. And you're doing more management than you are actually doing the activity that help you create that small team. And that's really easy to fall into. So to create independent leaders, have them learn stories, be there with them. If I were to work with Jay, I would say, Jay, we're going to go talk to 2 or 3 people together. I'll do the presentation. But after the 3rd person, you're going to do half, and I'm going to do half. And then after the 5th, 7th, 8th one, you're going to do all. Right? I'll give you feedback, but you're going to do all. What does that do? That's like the impending test in school. Oh, the exam's coming. I've got to learn it because Art won't be there the whole time for me. He's not going to do 100 presentations with me. He's going to do some, then we're going to do some together. Then I'm going to do them by myself. He'll give me feedback. And then Art's going to go work with James. Right? He's going to go work with Helen. Right? So set those expectations early so that they know that you're there to help them. You're there to learn the skills, but you're not going to be there doing all the presentations for them all the time. And sometimes as leaders, we want to do the presentations all the time because it makes us feel important. But you can't have false mercy, right? You've got to allow the partner to come out of the cocoon and build their own strength, their own belief. So we're there to be their biggest cheerleader. We're there to believe in them because it's free. We were there to help them. But we've got to let them learn how to do this so that they can fish for themselves. And then they can go do that with their team, right? And then before you know it, there's 10 people on your team doing the same with their 10 new partners. And good things start to happen.
Happy, Katie?
Yeah, that was helpful because I think you said there that managers don't be a manager, but I've got quite a big team now and I'm a mum with little time, and sometimes I feel like I'm you know, I want to be that yes person for everyone and all the partners. And then I forget to do like the reach outs and the follow ups and everything that I'm meant to be doing, because, you know, I need to be a bit more stricter. And what you're saying there was really helpful. So yeah, teach them to become a leader, and teach them
the skills. And then if they have roadblocks, then now we're going to try to help remove the roadblocks, right? And maybe the roadblock is something the company can do, and we say, hey, Mr. Morley, I've got this roadblock, he's going to help solve that. But maybe the roadblock is something mental. Maybe they went down from platinum to executive. It's like, oh no, I went to executive, and you're feeling low about that, and there's emotions that go with that. Now your role as the upline is to say, okay, Katie, I know we went down in rank over the summer. So how long did that take? Well, I dropped in rank over a 35-day period. Great. That means in a 35-day period, we can get that rank back, right? We shift the viewpoint. We say, let's use August to start to catch up, so that in September, we can have that rank back, right? Let's not lose August and have to start in September to get the rank back, and then miss the October, November push, right? That happens. So that's where you are. You're helping fix any roadblocks. Maybe they're not organized enough. So I said, let me help you with organization, right? So as a mom, Katie, you're probably, just like most moms I know, you're incredible at time management, because you got to be, right? Like, it's like, I got to do this, I got to do that. So maybe they're missing that in their lives. Maybe they made diamond and now they're full time, and the job that they had kept them disciplined. But now all of a sudden they become a full-time vacuum cleaner, because now they have 2 hours in the morning to vacuum and 2 hours at night, and they can do the dishes, and they're doing all the things that they weren't doing before when they had a job. So we've got to say, no. We got to still continue to do reach outs and presentations, right? So that's more of a coaching thing to help through certain things.
That question came at such an unbelievable time, and that answer was just absolutely perfect, because a lot of my team, as professionals, not direct sales and not experienced in the field of the market, you get to the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year stage, 5 year stage, things like any job becomes touchy, becomes stale. And I think the duplication question is the most asked, important, wanted to know question, actually, that we are discussing as a whole team, under the global legend, Mrs. Parr, Rebecca, with Rebecca's gang, obviously. But this is the biggest thing that we're talking about. And that leads me straight into another legend, Mr. Barker. Ian's asked, if you had 20 hours a week on Zinzino to run, as you run another business, what would the 3 activities you'd spend your time on the most doing?
Yeah, so 20 hours a week, we probably should be focused on 2 presentations a day, right? Like that minimum. So what are the activities that get you in front of 2 people a day? Be it over a Zoom or in person. But I think that's 8 to 10 presentations a week. That's a good pace to continue to add and build towards the business. So I would say, get good at the invite.
So reach out. So you say reach outs in effect.
Yeah, reach outs, either to invite them to sit down for lunch or a coffee. Get good at turning the conversation towards health. Get good at having a conversation that educates, but without, just over talking. Get good at would you like to know your number? Would you like to do something about it? Would you like to help us help others? Just that conversational flow works for me. It may not be the right solution for you. I mean, Vibeke is like, she's such an incredible rock star to do what she's done with the children, she is just, it's like, whoa. She has a lot of tips, but I would say those 20 hours, the Zoom call doesn't count in those 20, right? So these 2.5 hours, that's not part of the 20. That's where you're honing your skills, reading your book, 20 pages a day, whatever that is, that doesn't count in the 20. The 20 really should be, at least until your Black Crown, presenting. Like we're letting people know, we're giving people options. And then once we find somebody that wants to be a partner, then let's walk them through that Fast Start program, right? Let's get them rolling, and let's talk to their list as quickly as we can.
Thanks, Art. That's great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Super. Lisa Lawn, you have a question?
I do. I did come off for a bit because my phone went a bit flat. But my question to you, Art, is how many times did Orion approach you before you actually said yes?
So I gotta say this. I know.
There's a reason for my question.
Yeah.
Because they say that somebody needs to see it 7 times on average before they actually commit and say yes.
Yep. So I've heard 7 times. I've heard 9 times. I've heard 6.2 times. I think people make up how many times is average because who's got the data on that, right? Is it some mysterious AI person? But there is a number for sure, right? There is some average. I don't know what the exact number is. I will say that Orion has some incredible skills. One of them is patience and follow-up. He does not give up ever. He will talk, bring it up, do the pitch, get a no. He doesn't see that no, like it just doesn't register for him. Great, life goes on. He does other things. The next time we see each other, conversation, bring it up again. Like to him, the no is, it just doesn't even, it's like, it's not there. He was the same with Doug Bergheim Pedersen. They bring him on as the CEO. I think Orion directly or indirectly approached me 30 times.
Wow.
Yeah, minimum in some way, shape, or form. Never took it personally when the timing wasn't right for me or something wasn't, wasn't lining up. That wasn't about him. So I would say the answer to that was yes, at least 30 times. But then number 2, we control the inputs, not the outputs. Right?
Okay.
We don't control if it's 4 times with that person or 30. What we control is that we continue on. And that we do it in a way where they're not offended that you do. I was never offended by Orion asking again. And he didn't do it in a way that I'm like, oh my gosh, that was just, I never want to go through that again with him. Like he didn't do a 2-hour presentation every time. Right? So do it in a way where people are okay with you just bringing it up again.
In a subtle way, like you presented before.
Yeah, it can be subtle or it can be direct. He did both, depending on, what he needed when. And then ultimately it's the timing sometimes has to be right for the person, right? So let's say I've got a prospect named Joe, and I call Joe at 7 a.m. for some reason. I say, Joe, you ready to join my business? He says, nope, hangs up. Why? Because he's supposed to get a raise that day. He's excited. Then he gets into traffic at 7:15. I call him, Joe, want to join him? Yeah, you know what? I should look at that because this traffic sucks. 8:05, he shows up at work. I call him, hey, Joe, you want to do this? No, because he finds out that today's the day that they're, having their party. 8:45, I call him, same day. Hey, you want to, not that I would, but let's say we did. Hey, you want to join the business? He's like, oh my gosh, yes. I'm finding out that there's a round of layoffs. Right? So even throughout the day, there may be different points. And now all of a sudden at 4:00, he's laid off. And then 4:30, he finds out he wins the lottery. I call him at 4:30. You ready, Joe? No, I won the lottery. That's not on me. That's on Joe, right? So the timing is also important especially on the business side, when we talk to people and just allow to know that the timing for them is more of an indicator than you. Like eventually you get pretty good at the presentation and talking to people.
Okay.
If nobody has any more questions, then feel free to speak. I'm gonna start to finish off. What an incredible call! I mean, you just took me on a journey, Art, from when I left the armed forces at 25 to running down the street, commission only, after being in a classroom. How is your PMA? I feel healthy. I feel happy. I feel terrific. To actually understand them when I walked into that pub one day because John over the joiner and Bob the candlestick maker or or John the Butcher or whoever it was, it might interest you also. He told me to get out, and he was just having a bad day. And I remember going back in 6 months later, and he bought from me. So the key idea is that has come away from this, hour and 37 minutes of being on a call, for me, has been phenomenal. There's so much I'm going to take from it. Thankfully, I'm going to Mallorca with 2 young children who are going to play in a water park all day, and we leave at 3 o'clock in the morning in about 5 hours. Because I'm going to watch this back about 2 or 3 times with a notebook and pen in the shade, not with a beer, but then after I've watched it a few times, I might treat myself to a beer, because I think that the way, what I've learned today, Art, is one of the reasons I asked you, and haven't asked many people actually, because I admired you so much when I first met you. Obviously, with your background, your experience, and just the human being that you are, the laughs and the cracks we've had with Chris Go, Chris Gone, the things that we can talk about. But the power for us has been on stage. My team absolutely love seeing you on stage, because you have a way of keeping it super simple. And we've always talked about it, and you're never to be missed. And Lisa's just asked the question, so if Orion asks you 30 times, I need to ask you 31 times for you to come to Liverpool in the UK. So this is the first, just for the record. And if I have to go to 131, then we'll start to go GoFundMe. but look, we have the pleasure of meeting you, Art, obviously, in our events with Zinzino, but I think there's a couple of people who'd really like a quick, minute or two on your mastermind events, what that's about, what the purpose is, what it brings, and why we should maybe think about that as entrepreneurs and investing in our future business.
Yeah. So I don't want to come here and pitch an event, right? I just let you know that the journey for that was, when I looked at the insurance business, or I looked at the dental business, or I looked at the venture capital world, there were times where they would get together for a conference and just share best practices with each other and get to know each other. And that didn't exist inside the space of network marketing. Everybody siloed. And I thought, that's just strange. Why? Like, a rising tide lifts all ships, right? There are so many people in the world. Not one company is going to get them all. And so I took some of my best friends that were in different companies, not my company, but like Tom Big Al Strider, great friend. I took Randy Gage. I took Richard Brook. I took Orion Sala, who was, just innovative thinking. And I said, hey, why don't we do a 2-day event and show the world that you're not enemies, that you're creating friendships. And so they weren't friends at the time, really close friends, but we did our first one, which was a smaller event, 200 people. And the audience realized that if those guys can get along, then maybe if I see a Mary Kay lady pumping gas while I'm pumping gas, my job isn't to say, oh, you should join my business, your business sucks. You should just say, congratulations for taking the journey of being an entrepreneur. And over time, the speakers got to become friends, because we did the speaker dinners and so forth. And you could see that friendship on the stage, right? And the event grew, and it's a no recruiting zone, keep it generic. And the idea was to bring like one of the top 5 or 10 speakers for 20 different companies and just share their best practices every year. And that's it. And there's only thing you can buy is the ticket for the next year. So there are no $5,000 coaching packages or a $50,000 mentoring thing. Or look, if a mom's making 500 euros with her network marketing company, she needs that money. Why should we try to have a secret sauce behind a mentoring program to take that money from her? Right? If you're on the stage, you're doing well financially already. You don't need to do that. And I don't have anything against mentoring programs, but we weren't the ones that are going to go sell it. Right? It's just the ticket. And so this year, I think, is our 30th one, if I remember right. So 30 years now. It's going to be in Sofia, Bulgaria. It's, I think, sold out. But there'll be one next year. It'll be in Europe somewhere. We're keeping it a secret until the event. So it's just a place to build belief in the profession. Here's some best practices. Pick up an idea or two, and just realize that, hey, we have an incredible profession and that we're part of. And Zinzino's, like one of the gold standards inside that profession. And let me tell you, like, our goal is to be the number one in the profession. Amway, I think, is $6 billion right now. We don't want to end this on this earth without getting to number one. But the bigger goal is to be one of the greatest companies that's ever come out of Scandinavia, direct selling or not. Right. So it's like the vision's big.
And you hit the nail on the head. It's our children. It's who we're educating. Eliana will take a shot from the bottle, as she normally does with that little face. I will tell her about your concept when she's 18. She will kill me. Maybe I can show that picture from the screenshot of the recording that I'm gonna take this evening. But I didn't see that as a pitch. I see it as a disservice not to talk about that, because we're all here to invest in ourselves and art. Thank you so much, mate. You're a legend, and on behalf of everyone.
Well, Jay, thank you for having me on. Thanks for the privilege of speaking to your team, because that is a privilege.